Teacher, Kes asked, why did the humans destroy our military? Her teacher, an older Zephyrian who had lived through the war, thought carefully before answering. Because we hurt one of their children. We thought it would make us seem powerful. Instead, it showed us how weak we really were. Weak? But we had big ships and strong weapons. Yes, the teacher said. But the humans had something stronger than weapons. They had love for their children. That love made them build better weapons than ours. It made them fight harder than we could. It made them willing to cross the galaxy just to protect one small boy. Kes nodded. She had seen pictures of Jake Miller in her history books. She had read about how the humans had united their entire species just to help him. I want to meet him someday, Kes said. I want to tell him I'm sorry for what my people did. Her teacher smiled. Maybe you will. The humans are teaching us that the universe is big enough for everyone, as long as we don't hurt each other's children. Jake Miller finished his speech and walked off the stage. His parents were waiting for him, proud smiles on their faces. His sister Amy was there too, wearing her military uniform. You did great, little brother, Amy said, hugging him carefully. I just told them the truth, Jake replied. The truth about humans. As they walked toward their home, Jake looked up at the defense station that bore his name. Thousands of people worked on that station, all of them dedicated to making sure that what happened to him never happened to another child. Jake didn't fully understand the impact he had had on the galaxy. He didn't know that alien parents now told their children stories about the human boy who had united an entire species. He didn't know that his name was spoken with respect and awe on 1,000 different worlds. What Jake did know was that he felt safe. He knew that if anyone ever tried to hurt him or any other child, the entire human race would come to help. He knew that his family included every human in the galaxy, and that family would always protect its children. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was a different place now than it had been 2 years ago. Humans were no longer seen as weak or primitive. They were seen as the species that would go to war for a single child. Other alien races were changing too. The Kalari had started their own child protection programs after seeing what humans had done for Jake. The Vorthan Empire had made new laws protecting civilian populations. Even the warlike Nixari had begun treating prisoners better, afraid of what might happen if humans decided they were too cruel. Admiral, her science officer said, we're receiving a signal from Earth. It's from Jake Miller. Kate smiled. Jake sometimes sent messages to the ships in the fleet just to say hello to the people who had helped him. Put him on screen. Jake's face appeared on the bridge display. He was grinning, and his eyes were bright with excitement. Hi, Admiral Kate. I just wanted to say thank you again for everything you did. Oh, and I have some news. My mom says we're going to have a new baby soon. I'm going to be a big brother. Kate felt her heart warm as she listened to Jake's happy voice. This was why they had fought. This was why they had built the most powerful military force in the galaxy, so that children like Jake could grow up safe and happy, surrounded by people who loved them. Congratulations, Jake, Kate said. I'm sure you'll be a great big brother. I'm going to teach the baby about flowers, Jake said, and I'm going to make sure nobody ever hurts them. After the call ended, Kate looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there might be other aliens who thought humans were weak. Other species who might consider attacking human children. If they were smart, they would remember the story of Jake Miller. They would remember what happened when 3 aliens decided to torture a human child for fun. They would remember that humanity's love for its children was stronger than any weapon in the galaxy. And if they weren't smart enough to remember, humanity would be happy to remind them. The universe had learned the new rule. You don't hurt human children, ever, because when you hurt one of them, you make enemies of all of them. And there was no force in the galaxy more dangerous than humans protecting their young Jake Miller, the 8-year-old boy who had been picking flowers when aliens attacked him, had accidentally taught the entire galaxy what it meant to be human. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all. 1 year after the destruction of the Zephyrian military, Jake Miller stood on a stage in front of thousands of people. He was 9 years old now, taller and stronger than before. The scars on his body were still visible, but they had become symbols of something important. Behind Jake, a massive space station floated in orbit around his home planet. The station was called the Jake Miller Defense Platform, and it was the most powerful military base humans had ever built. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Its sensors could detect threats from across the galaxy. "Thank you all for coming," Jake said into the microphone. His voice was still small, but it carried across the crowd into every human world through television broadcasts. "A year ago, some bad aliens hurt me because they thought humans were weak. They thought nobody would care about one little boy getting hurt." Jake paused and looked out at the crowd. They were wrong. The audience cheered. In the crowd were Admiral Kate Sullivan, Dr. Alex Chun, Captain Lisa Parker, and thousands of other humans who had helped win the war against the Zephyrians. They all had tears in their eyes as they listened to the brave boy speak. "My big sister Amy recorded what happened to me," Jake continued. "She sent that recording to everyone in the galaxy. She showed them what the aliens did. That's when I learned something important about humans." Jake smiled, and his smile was broadcast to every human world in the galaxy. "I learned that when you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. When those aliens shot me, they made every human in the galaxy angry. They turned all of us into one big family that protects each other." Admiral Kate wiped tears from her eyes as she listened to Jake speak. The war against the Zephyrians had not just been about revenge. It had been about showing the galaxy what humans truly were. After the destruction of the Zephyrian military, other alien races had sent messages to Earth. Some were apologies for treating humans badly in the past. Others were offers of friendship and trade agreements. All of them had one thing in common. They were scared. The galaxy had learned that humans were not the weak, primitive species they had appeared to be. Any race that could build such a powerful military force in less than a year, just to protect one injured child, was not a race to be underestimated. "From now on," Jake said, "nobody in the galaxy will hurt children and get away with it. The Jake Miller Doctrine says that if you attack human civilians, especially kids, we will come for you with everything we have. No negotiations, no surrender, no mercy." The Jake Miller Doctrine had already been sent to every known alien civilization. The message was simple and clear. Harm human children and face total war with humanity. Dr. Alex Chun sat in the audience, thinking about how much the galaxy had changed. The weapons he had built to destroy the Zephyrians were now being used to protect human colonies. The factories that had made warships were now building exploration vessels and hospital ships. But the most important changes were not in technology or military power. The most important changes were in how aliens saw humans. Before Jake's attack, most alien races had seen humans as just another young species trying to find their place in the galaxy. Now they saw humans as the species that would unite the entire galaxy to protect a single child. That was either very inspiring or very terrifying, depending on whether you were human or not. Captain Lisa Parker had been promoted to admiral after the war. Her new job was to lead human exploration fleets to distant parts of the galaxy. Everywhere she went, aliens treated her with respect and fear. They had all heard about what happened to the Zephyrians. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the Altarian government. They want to discuss a treaty. Lisa nodded. The Altarians had been considering attacking a human mining colony before the war with the Zephyrians. Now they wanted to be friends instead. The Jake Miller War had changed many minds across the galaxy. Amy Miller, Jake's sister, was now a communications officer on Admiral Kate's flagship. She had been part of every major battle against the Zephyrians. Her recording device, the one she had used to document her brother's attack, was now displayed in the Human Military Museum on Earth. Amy, Admiral Kate said, "We just received a report from the Outer Rim. A species called the Draxans have been attacking civilian colonies belonging to the Kellari people. The Kellari are asking for our help." Amy looked at the report. The Draxans were doing to Kellari children the same things the Zephyrians had done to her brother. The attacks were brutal and senseless. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Amy asked. Kate's expression hardened. "Send the fleet. The Jake Miller Doctrine applies to all children, not just human ones. If the Draxans want to hurt kids, they can deal with us." The war against the Zephyrians had taught humans something important about themselves. They were not just fighting to protect their own children. They were fighting to protect all children, everywhere in the galaxy. Back on the Zephyrian home world, the aliens were rebuilding their society under human supervision. The proud warriors who had once bullied weaker races were now working in farms and factories. Their weapons were gone. Their military was disbanded. Their leaders were in prison. But something interesting was happening on the Zephyrian world. Without their military culture, the aliens were discovering other parts of themselves. They were becoming artists and teachers and scientists. Children who had once been trained to be warriors were now learning to build things instead of destroying them. A young Zephyrian named Kess was one of these children. She had been born after the war, and she was growing up in a world where hurting others was no longer considered strong or admirable. The Zephyrian homeworld had never seen so many ships appear at once. 300 human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation above the planet. Each ship was twice the size of the largest Zephyrian vessel. Each ship was painted with the face of Jake Miller and the words, "You hurt our children." On the planet below, Zephyrian military commanders stared at their screens in shock. They had expected maybe a dozen human ships to show up eventually. They had not expected an armada that blocked out the sun. Commander Vex, the alien who had tortured Jake Miller, was in his office when the alarm started screaming. He ran to his window and looked up at the sky. Human ships stretched from horizon to horizon, hanging in the air like dark clouds of death. "This is impossible," Vex whispered. "Humans don't have this many warships." His aide ran into the room, panic in his yellow eyes. "Commander, the humans are sending us a message." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made Vex step backward in fear. It was the human child he had shot, the one called Jake Miller. But the child was not broken and bleeding like before. He was standing and walking and smiling. He was alive. Then the image changed to show a human woman in a military uniform. Her eyes were cold as ice. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Defense Force," the woman said. "You wanted to test your weapons on human children. Now we'll test ours on you." Admiral Kate stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at the alien world below. Every screen around her showed Zephyrian military bases, cities, and ships. Her weapons officers were waiting for orders. "Admiral," her tactical officer said, "enemy ships are moving to attack positions." Kate looked at the alien fleet rising. From the planet, 50 Zephyrian warships climbed toward her fleet. They looked dangerous with their sharp angles and bright weapons. But Kate knew better. Her intelligence officers had studied these ships for months. They looked scary, but they were not well built. "All ships," Kate said into her communication device, "remember why we're here. Remember Jake Miller." Show these aliens what happens. When they hurt our children, the Zephyrian fleet fired first. Bright energy beams shot toward the human ships. The aliens expected to see human vessels explode in balls of fire. Instead, the beams bounced off human shields like raindrops off a window. The new shield technology that Dr. Alex Chun had developed was specifically designed to stop Zephyrian weapons. The aliens had given human scientists the perfect example of their technology when they tortured Jake. Now the technology was useless against human defenses. Our turn, Kate said quietly. Fire. The human response was devastating. Plasma cannons that could punch through solid rock opened fire on the alien ships. The new weapons that had been built in the months after Jake's attack tore through Zephyrian armor like it was made of paper. The first alien ship exploded in seconds, then the second, then the third. Within minutes, the entire Zephyrian fleet was floating debris. Captain Lisa Parker led her squadron of fighters toward the planet's surface. She had been watching these aliens for months, learning their weaknesses. Now she was going to use that knowledge. All fighters, target the military bases first, Lisa said to her pilots. Remember, these are the same aliens who laughed while they tortured a human child. Lisa's fighter screamed through the alien atmosphere toward Commander Vex's base. She could see Zephyrian soldiers running around on the ground, trying to set up anti-aircraft weapons. They were moving slowly, clumsily. They had never faced an enemy that fought back. Lisa fired her weapons at the base's main building. The structure collapsed in a cloud of dust and flames. Somewhere in that wreckage was the monster who had hurt Jake Miller. But Lisa was not satisfied with just destroying buildings. She wanted the aliens to feel the same fear that Jake had felt. All pilots use the fear weapons. She ordered Dr. Helen Burke had designed special weapons that caused terror instead of death. Sound waves that made aliens feel like they were being hunted. Light patterns that triggered panic in Zephyrian brains. Chemicals that made them afraid of their own shadows. The aliens on the ground began running in circles, screaming. They dropped their weapons and hid in caves and buildings. The proud warriors who had enjoyed torturing a human child were now crying like babies. Admiral Kate watched the planet below descend into chaos. Zephyrian cities were going dark as human cyber weapons shut down their power grids. Alien communication networks were being jammed by human technology. The entire planet was being systematically destroyed. Admiral, her intelligence officer said, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different Zephyrian commanders. Kate's face showed no emotion. Ignore them. Mom? You heard me. Ignore them. When they shot Jake Miller, did they stop when he begged them to? Did they show mercy when he cried for his parents? No surrender. No mercy. The battle was not really a battle. It was an execution. Human weapons, designed specifically to counter everything the Zephyrians had made. Their military looked like children playing with toys. Ships that had seemed powerful a year ago were now floating scrap metal. Commander Vex crawled out of the ruins of his base, bleeding from cuts on his green skin. Half of his officers were dead. The other half were running away in terror. Above him, human ships circled like hungry predators. Vex activated his personal communicator and tried to contact the human fleet. This is Commander Vex of the Zephyrian military. I request permission to surrender. The response came from Admiral Kate herself. Her voice was calm and cold. Commander Vex, you're the one who tortured the human child, aren't you? Yes, but I was just following orders. I can give you information about our military. I can help you. I don't want your help, Kate said. I want you to understand something. That child you hurt? His name was Jake Miller. He was 8 years old. He was picking flowers for his mother when you shot him. Vex looked around at the destruction surrounding him. Human fighters were still attacking his soldiers. The proud Zephyrian military was being wiped out. "Please," Vex begged. "I'll do anything. Just stop the attack." "You don't get to ask for mercy," Kate replied. "You hurt a child and laughed about it. That was your choice. This is ours." A human fighter appeared above Vex's position. The alien commander looked up at the weapons pointed at him and knew he was about to die. In his last moments, he finally understood what he had done wrong. The Zephyrians had thought humans were weak because they cared about their children. What they had failed to understand was that caring about children was what made humans strong. It was what gave them the determination to build better weapons, to train harder, to fight with a fury that no alien race had ever seen. The fighters' weapons fired. Commander Vex, the alien who had tortured Jake Miller for fun, ceased to exist. Across the planet, the same scene was playing out thousands of times. Zephyrian military officers, who had spent years bullying weaker races, were learning what it felt like to be helpless. They were experiencing the terror that they had caused in others. In others, Dr. Alex Chun watched the battle from his laboratory ship. His new weapons were performing even better than he had hoped. The plasma cannons were cutting through alien defenses like they were made of candy. The fear weapons were turning proud alien warriors into whimpering cowards. "Doctor," his assistant said, "the planet's military has been completely destroyed. Should we stop the attack?" Alex thought about Jake Miller, lying broken in a hospital bed while aliens laughed about what they had done to him. "No, keep firing. I want every Zephyrian military base turned to dust. I want their weapons factories destroyed. I want their shipyards reduced to scrap metal." The attack continued for 6 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrian military no longer existed. Their ships were debris floating in space. Their bases were craters in the ground. Their commanders were dead, but Admiral Kate was not finished. She opened a communication channel to every Zephyrian civilian on the planet below. "People of the Zephyrian home world," she said, "your military attacked a human child and tortured him for entertainment. They thought we were weak because we care about our children. They were wrong. On the planet below, millions of aliens listened to her words in fear. Your military has been destroyed," Kate continued. "Your commanders are dead. From this day forward, your world is under human protection. You will disarm completely. You will never again attack innocent beings. If any Zephyrian ever hurts another child, anywhere in the galaxy, we will return and finish what we started today." Kate looked out at the broken planet below. Smoke rose from 1,000 destroyed military bases. The aliens who had seemed so powerful when they were hurting a helpless child were now helpless themselves. "Remember this day," Kate said into her communicator. "Remember what happens when someone hurts our children." The reckoning was complete. The aliens who had laughed while torturing Jake Miller would never laugh again. 6 months had passed since the attack on Jake Miller. The little boy was walking again, though he moved slowly and had scars all over his body. Every step he took reminded him of that terrible day. But Jake was alive, and that was what mattered. To every human in the galaxy, the picture of Jake's scarred face was now on posters in every human military base. Under his picture were the words, "Remember Jake." Soldiers looked at that picture every day before they started training. It reminded them why they were preparing for war. General Chris Walker stood in front of the biggest war room humans had ever built. On the walls were maps of every known alien world. Pictures of enemy ships covered the tables. Thousands of military officers worked day and night, planning the largest attack in human history. "How many ships do we have ready?" Chris asked his assistant. 2,000 warships, sir, with more being built every day." Chris nodded. Before the attack on Jake, Humans had maybe 300 warships spread across the entire galaxy. Now they had built more warships in 6 months than they had built in the previous 50 years. Every human world was working together in a way that had never happened before. Mars sent weapons. Earth sent soldiers. The outer colonies sent rare metals needed to build bigger guns. No one asked for payment. No one worried about profit. They all just wanted to make the aliens pay for hurting Jake. Dr. Alex Chun walked through his new laboratory. It was 10 times bigger than his old one. Inside, hundreds of scientists worked on weapons that had only existed in their imaginations before. The government had given Alex unlimited money and told him to build anything he could think of. "Show me the new plasma cannons," Alex said to his lead scientist. The woman led him to a testing room where a weapon the size of a car sat pointing at a thick metal wall. "This cannon can punch through any known alien armor," she explained. "We've tested it on captured Zephyrian metal. It goes through like a hot knife through butter." Alex smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Good. Build 1,000 of them." In another part of the lab, engineers were working on something even more dangerous. They called it the pain ray. It was designed to cause the same kind of suffering that Jake Miller had experienced, but worse. Much worse. "Is it ready for testing?" Alex asked. "Yes, sir. But we need alien test subjects." "Don't worry," Alex said. "We'll have plenty of those soon." Captain Lisa Parker was deep in enemy space, watching a Zephyrian military base through her ship's cameras. Her ship, the UES Wraith, was invisible to alien sensors thanks to new technology that human scientists had developed. For 6 months, Lisa had been spying on the aliens. What she had learned made her sick with anger, but also gave her hope. "Captain," her intelligence officer said, "I've finished analyzing their command structure." "What did you find?" "The Zephyrians are bullies, but they're not very smart. They rule through fear, but their technology is mostly stolen from other races. Their ships look scary, but they're not well built. Our new weapons should cut through them easily." Lisa studied the alien base below. Hundreds of green-skinned Zephyrians moved around like they owned the universe. They had no idea that human ships were watching them from the darkness. "Have you found Commander Vex yet?" Lisa asked. "Yes, Captain. He's in the main command building. Our scans show he still carries the same weapon he used on Jake Miller." Lisa's hands tightened into fists. She wanted to fire every weapon on her ship at that building right now. But she had orders to watch and learn, not to attack. Not yet. "Keep watching him," she said. "I want to know everything about that monster." On Earth, Intelligence Officer Dana Kim was doing something that should have been impossible. She had broken into the Zephyrian communication system and was reading their secret messages. What she found made her laugh, but not in a happy way. The Zephyrian leaders were talking about the human problem. They had seen that humans were building more ships and making more weapons, but they thought it was just normal military buildup that would slow down after a while. One message from a Zephyrian general said, "These humans are like all the other weak races. They make noise for a while, then they forget and go back to their normal lives. We just need to wait them out." Another message said, "The human child we tested our weapons on has recovered. This proves that humans are tougher than we thought, but still not a real threat." Donna printed out every message and took them to Admiral Sullivan. "They have no idea what's coming," she said. Kate read the messages and shook her head. "They really think we're going to just forget about Jake and move on? It seems like that's what other races have done when the Zephyrians attacked them. They probably can't imagine a species that holds grudges the way humans do." "Well," Kate said, "they're about to get an education." Commander Nick Johnson was training the largest army in human history. Every day, Tens of thousands of new soldiers arrived at training camps across human space. They came from every world, every background, every age group that was old enough to fight. What made these soldiers different was their motivation. Nick had trained armies before, but he had never seen soldiers who were so focused, so angry, so determined to win. These Zephyrians like to torture their enemies, Nick told a group of new recruits. They think pain makes them strong. Well, we're going to show them what real strength looks like. The training was harder than anything the human military had ever done before. Soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity, on hostile planets, in toxic atmospheres. They learned to use weapons that could destroy entire buildings. They learned to work together like a single deadly machine. But the most important thing they learned was why they were fighting. Every soldier memorized Jake Miller's story. They all saw the recording of his attack. They all understood that this war was about more than territory or resources. It was about showing the universe that humans protect their children. Dr. Helen Burke was working on something different from weapons or ships. She was studying the psychology of the enemy. Her job was to figure out how to hurt the Zephyrians in ways that went beyond physical damage. The aliens are proud, she explained to a meeting of military leaders. They think they're superior to other races. This makes them confident, but it also makes them vulnerable. If we can make them feel weak and afraid, they'll make mistakes. Helen had been studying the recording of Jake's attack, not just for evidence, but to understand how this Zephyrian mind worked. She had analyzed every laugh, every gesture, every word the aliens had spoken. They enjoy causing fear in others, she continued, but they've never experienced real fear themselves. When they realize that humans are not afraid of them, when they see that we're actually hunting them, it will break their confidence. How do we use that? Asked General Walker. We make them understand that they're the prey now, Helen said. We let them know that we're coming for them personally. We make them afraid to sleep at night. Jake Miller was getting stronger every day. The doctor said he would never be completely healed, but he could walk and run and play like other children. His scars were still visible, but they were becoming symbols of something important. When Jake walked through the colony, people stopped to look at him. Not because they pitied him, but because they respected him. This little boy had become the reason why the entire human race was preparing for war. Jake didn't fully understand what he had started. He just knew that the bad aliens who had hurt him were going to be punished. That made him feel safe again. His sister Amy had joined the military. She was training to be a communications officer. Her job would be to make sure that every human ship could talk to every other human ship during the big battle that was coming. I want to be there when we make them pay, Amy told her parents. I want to help win this war for Jake. The preparation was almost complete. Human ships were gathering in secret locations throughout the galaxy. Weapons were being loaded. Soldiers were saying goodbye to their families. Scientists were putting the finishing touches on weapons that would have been considered impossible. Just 1 year ago, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 300 warships floated in perfect formation, waiting for her order to begin the attack. Each ship carried the picture of Jake Miller on its hull. Each ship was crewed by humans who had seen the recording of his torture. Each ship was armed with weapons designed to make the Zephyrians pay for what they had done. Admiral, her communications officer said, all ships report ready for jump. Kate nodded. The time for preparation was over. The time for war had begun. Send a message to Earth Command, she said. Tell them that the Jake Miller fleet is ready to depart. The Zephyrians had thought they were testing their weapons on a weak human child. What they had really done was wake up a sleeping giant that was about to show them the true meaning of terror. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency message came through. She set down her cup and opened the file on her computer screen. What she saw made her blood turn to ice dot. The recording showed everything. A small human boy picking flowers. 3 alien monsters shooting him with their weapons. The child screams. The aliens laughing as they hurt him. Kate had been in the military for 20 years. She had seen war and death and terrible things, but nothing had ever made her feel like this. Her hands began to shake with anger. She pressed a button on her desk. Get me Earth Command, now. Within minutes, Admiral Kate was talking to the highest leaders of the human military. The recording was playing on screens across Earth. Every general, every admiral, every officer was seeing the same thing she had seen. How long ago did this happen? Asked General Robert Stone, the head of Earth Defense. 6 hours, Kate replied. The girl who recorded it sent it to every communication network in human space. By now, every human in the galaxy has seen it. Good, Robert said. His voice was cold as winter. Let them see it. Let them see what these aliens do to our children. On Earth, people stopped what they were doing to watch the recording. In offices and homes and schools, humans stared at their screens in shock. They watched Jake Miller, a little boy who looked like their own sons and brothers, being tortured by alien monsters. The reaction was immediate and powerful. Phone lines to military offices became so busy they crashed. People wanted to join the fight. They wanted to make the aliens pay for what they had done. Dr. Alex Chung was working in his laboratory when his assistant burst through the door. Doctor, you need to see this, the young woman said. She was crying. Alex watched the recording 3 times. Each time, his anger grew stronger. He was the head of weapons research for the human military. For years, he had been working on new weapons that were too dangerous to use. Weapons that the military leaders said were too much for normal war. Alex picked up his phone and called. Admiral Sullivan. Kate, I just saw the recording. I want permission to use the Omega project. Alex, you know the Omega weapons are banned? They're too powerful. That was before aliens tortured a human child for fun, Alex said. I want permission to build them, all of them. There was silence on the phone. Then Kate spoke. You have permission. Build whatever you need. Money is no problem. Resources are no problem. Just build them. Captain Lisa Parker was on her ship, the U.E.'s Wraith, when she got new orders. She was to take her ship into alien space and find out everything she could about these Zephyrians. Lisa had 2 children of her own. After watching the recording of Jake Miller, she felt something dark and cold settle in her chest. She called her crew together. We have new orders, she told them. We're going to find the aliens who did this. We're going to learn everything about them. Where they live, how many ships they have, what their weaknesses are. Her crew nodded. Every one of them had the same look in their eyes. The look of humans who had been pushed too far. Captain, asked her second officer, what do we do if we find them? We don't engage, Lisa said. Not yet. First we learn. Then we come back, and we kill them all. Back on Earth, the news was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Every human world was seeing the recording. Factory workers stopped their machines to watch. Farmers left their fields. Students walked out of schools. Everyone was watching the same terrible thing. Ryan Davis ran the biggest spaceship factory. On Mars, when he saw the recording, he immediately called his workers together. You all saw what happened to that little boy, Ryan said. I'm shutting down all our civilian ship production. From now on, we build warships. Only warships. We work 24 hours a day until every human in the galaxy has a ship to fight. The workers cheered. No one asked about overtime pay or vacation days. They just wanted to build ships that could carry weapons to the aliens who hurt. Jake Miller. Maria Santos worked at an ammunition factory. After seeing the recording, she volunteered to work double shifts. So did everyone else at the factory. Soon they were making bullets and missiles around the clock. All across human space, the same thing was happening. People were volunteering for everything. Military recruitment centers had lines around the block. Factories switched to making war supplies. Scientists started working on better weapons and armor. But the most important thing happening was something deeper. Humans who had never met each other, who lived on different worlds, who spoke different languages, all felt the same thing. They all felt like Jake Miller was their own child, their own brother, their own family. The recording had done something the aliens never expected. It had reminded every human in the galaxy that they were all one people, one family. And when you hurt one member of a human family, you had to answer to all of them. In hospitals across human space, doctors watched the recording and began preparing. They knew there would be wounded soldiers coming. They began training for the kinds of injuries that happened in war. In schools, teachers tried to explain to their students what they had seen. Many children were scared. They wanted to know if the aliens would come for them too. No, the teachers said. The aliens made a mistake. They hurt one of us. Now all of us are going to make sure they never hurt anyone again. Back on Kepler 442b, Jake Miller was fighting for his life in the hospital. The doctors had stopped the bleeding and were working to repair the damage the alien weapons had done. His parents sat beside his bed, holding his hands. Amy Miller sat in the waiting room, still holding her recording device. She had sent the recording to every human world, but she kept watching it herself. Each time she saw her brother get hurt, her anger grew stronger. A reporter came to interview her. "Why did you decide to record what happened instead of trying to help?" Amy looked at the reporter with tired eyes. "Because I knew that if people saw what these aliens really are, they would do something about it. My brother is just one little boy, but he's our little boy. And now everyone knows what they did to him." The reporter nodded. She understood. This wasn't just about Jake Miller anymore. This was about what kind of universe humans wanted to live in. A universe where aliens could hurt human children and laugh about it? Or a universe where that kind of evil had consequences? Admiral Kate Sullivan looked out the window of her ship. At the stars. Somewhere out there were the aliens who had tortured a human child. They probably thought humans would just accept what happened. Maybe send an angry message or file a complaint. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Kate picked up her communication device and sent a message to every human military commander in the galaxy. Begin Phase 1. Full mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We're going to show these aliens what happens when they hurt our children. The awakening had begun. Humanity was getting ready for war. Jake Miller loved the flowers that grew near his house. The 8-year-old boy would spend hours picking the purple ones that his mom liked best. She always smiled when he brought them to her. Today was no different. Jake walked through the tall grass, looking for the prettiest flowers he could find. The sun was warm on his face. Birds sang in the trees above him. Jake hummed a song his sister Amy had taught him. He did not know that eyes were watching him from the sky. 3 ships hung in the clouds above the human colony. They were not human ships. The beings inside. Them had green skin and yellow eyes that looked like a snake's eyes. They called themselves the Zephyrians. They had been traveling through space for many years, taking what they wanted from weaker races. Commander Vex looked down at the small human settlement through his ship's window. His thin lips pulled back to show sharp teeth. "Look at this pathetic place," he said to his crew. "These humans think they can build homes on our planets. Should we destroy the whole colony?" asked his second officer, Crowl. "Not yet," Vex replied. First, we test our new weapons. See that small one down there? The young human picking flowers? He will do nicely." Jake bent down to pick a flower with petals as bright as the sun. He did not hear the soft hum of the alien ship coming down from the clouds. He did not see the 3 tall figures that stepped out of the ship until one of them spoke. Human child. Jake looked up. His eyes went wide. The things standing in front of him were taller than his dad. Their skin was green like old leaves. Their eyes were yellow and cold. Jake had never seen anything like them before. "Are you aliens?" Jake asked. He was scared, but also curious. His dad had told him stories about life on other planets. The 3 aliens looked at each other and made sounds that might have been laughter. Vex stepped closer to the boy. "Yes, little human, we are aliens, and you are going to help us with something." Jake took a step back. "Help you with what?" "You are going to help us test our weapons." Before Jake could run, one of the aliens pointed a silver stick at him. A blue light shot out and hit Jake in the chest. Pain exploded through his small body. He fell to the ground, crying out. "Interesting," Vex said, looking at a small screen on his weapon. "The human child is still alive. Let us try a higher setting." 20 feet away, behind a large rock, Amy Miller pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. The 16-year-old girl had been looking for her little brother when she heard the strange voices. She had hidden just in time to see the aliens hurt Jake. Amy's hands shook as she pulled out her communication device. She had to record this. She had to get proof. Her finger found the record button just as the alien fired his weapon again. Jake's scream filled the air. The boy tried to crawl away, but his legs would not work right. Tears ran down his face. "Please," he whispered. "I want my mom." The aliens made more of those awful laughing sounds. "The small human is crying," Kral said. "How weak these creatures are." "Yes," Vex agreed. "Fire again. I want to see how much damage these weapons can do before the human stops moving." Amy bit her lips so hard she tasted blood. She kept recording, even though every part of her wanted to run out and help her brother. But she knew she could not fight. 3 armed aliens. The only way to help Jake was to get proof of what they were doing. The 3rd alien, who had not spoken before, raised his own weapon. "My turn," he said. He fired at Jake's arm. The boy screamed again and tried to roll away. "Look how it moves," the alien said with glee. "Like a wounded animal." For 10 more minutes, the aliens took turns shooting at Jake with different weapons. They talked about the boy like he was not a person at all. They compared the damage there. Weapons made? They laughed when Jake cried for his parents. Finally, Vex held up his hand. "Enough. The human is almost dead. We should go before the others come looking for it." The aliens walked back to their ship. Jake lay still in the grass, his small body broken and bleeding. Amy waited until the ship disappeared into the clouds before she ran to her brother. "Jake! Jake, can you hear me?" She knelt beside him, afraid to touch him because of all the burns and cuts. Jake's eyes opened a little. "Amy?" His voice was so quiet she could barely hear it. "I'm here. I'm going to get help." Amy pressed a button on her device. "Emergency! Emergency! We need medical help at the flower fields. My brother has been hurt badly." She looked down at the recording she had made. Her hands were still shaking, but she knew what she had to do. This recording would go to every human in the galaxy. Everyone would see what the aliens had done to her little brother. Everyone would know that these monsters had hurt a child and laughed about it. Amy held Jake's hand as they waited for help to come. She whispered to him about the flowers he had been picking, about how proud their parents would be of how brave he was being. But inside, she felt something cold and angry growing. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought hurting a child was funny. They had made a mistake that would cost them everything. When the medical team arrived, they carefully lifted Jake onto a stretcher. Amy walked beside him, still holding his hand. The recording device felt heavy in her other hand, but she knew it was the most important thing in the universe. Right now, by the time they reached the hospital, Amy had already sent the recording to the colony's main computer. From there, it would go to Earth, then to every human world in the galaxy. The aliens who hurt her brother thought they were testing their weapons on a weak target. What they had really done was light a fire that would burn across the stars. As the doctors worked on Jake, Amy looked out the window at the sky. Somewhere up there, those aliens were probably laughing about what they had done. They would not be laughing much longer. The whole galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone hurt a human child.